Imagine you are Rafael Nadal. You are standing on the red clay of Mallorca in March 2026. You have spent your entire life watching the next generation of tennis stars pass through your academy. You have seen thousands of kids with perfect backhands and million-dollar smiles. But on this specific Tuesday afternoon, you find yourself frozen. You are not looking at a scoreboard or a radar gun. You are looking at a 20-year-old girl from the Philippines named Eala, and you realize something is very wrong with the way the world understands this sport. Within 30 seconds of watching her, Nadal turned to his coaching staff and said, "I have never seen this before. No other player gets this. No other player has this specific thing." Now, if you follow the WTA tour, you might think you know the story. You see the highlights, you see the trophies. But you are likely missing the most shocking statistic of 2026. In the first 3 months of this year, Eala became the fastest-growing commercial asset in the history of the tennis of women. Her advertising value did not just go up, it exploded. We are talking about a growth rate that makes the early days of Maria Sharapova or Naomi Osaka look like a slow walk. But here is the problem. The American media is not telling you the full story. They are focusing on the rankings. They are focusing on the wins and losses. But they are ignoring the real reason why Eala is currently the most wanted athlete on the planet. To understand why a legend like Nadal was left speechless, we have to look at something the standard numbers can never show you. While the rest of the tennis world was busy obsessing over the rivalry between Iga Swiatek and Aryna Sabalenka, a quiet earthquake was building in the East. By the end of 2025, Eala was a promising talent. By April 2026, she was a global phenomenon sitting inside the WTA top 30. But it is the nature of her fame that should catch your attention. Within 90 days, the search volume for Eala inside the United States did not just grow. It jumped by 400%. That is more than Coco Gauff. That is more than Emma Navarro. This is a girl from Quezon City who is now dominating the screens of casual fans from Los Angeles to New York. The term "most wanted" is not an exaggeration. It is a literal description of her status in the industry. When we look at the data, we see something unprecedented. In 2026, Eala is not just a tennis player. She is a bridge. She is the first athlete in the modern era to command the undivided attention of a billion-person market in Asia while simultaneously capturing the hearts of the massive Filipino-American community. She is the only player who can sell out a stadium in Madrid on a Monday and then trigger a social media meltdown in Manila on a Tuesday. This is exactly why the power dynamic of the WTA is shifting. For decades, the tour relied on American or European stars to drive the money. But Eala has flipped the script. She has created a multinational fan ecosystem that simply did not exist before. She represents a market that the WTA has been desperate to reach for 20 years. And she is doing it with a level of charisma that makes sponsors throw away their old playbooks. But this leads us to a very strange question. Why are the biggest sponsors in the world suddenly willing to cancel contracts with established top 10 players just to get a meeting with Eala? It sounds insane. It sounds like a conspiracy. But when you look at the commercial data, it starts to make perfect sense. If you are starting to realize that the tennis world you thought you knew is changing right before your eyes, then you are exactly where you need to be. We are diving into the heart of a revolution that most people will not see coming until it is too late. If you want to stay ahead of these shifts and truly understand the future of this sport, you need to be part of the group that looks deeper than the highlights. Because what we found in the secret meetings after her last big win will change how you look at the WTA forever. When we analyzed the secret practice tapes that Nadal was watching, we found a technical detail that was truly terrifying. It was not just that she was hitting the ball hard. It was the physics of the ball itself. In the world of professional tennis, we measure the quality of a shot by its revolutions per minute, or RPM. For most of the top women on the WTA Tour, a heavy topspin shot sits around 2,500 RPM. Iga Swiatek, who is known for her extreme spin, often hits around 3,200. But the data from the 2026 season shows that Eala is consistently hitting the ball at 3,500 RPM. In some specific points, she has even touched 4,000. That is not just a high number for a woman. That is a number that sits right in the middle of the average for the ATP Men's Tour. When Nadal saw those numbers on the screen, he did not just see a talented student, he saw a physical anomaly. This is why her opponents look so exhausted by the end of the first set. They are not just running, they are fighting a ball that feels like a piece of lead when it hits their racket. Think back to the Miami Open in 2026. Eala was locked in a battle that lasted 3 hours and 20 minutes. Most young players would have crumbled under that physical pressure. But as the match went deeper into the third set, her spin rate actually increased. Her clutch performance index, which measures her ability to win points under extreme pressure, is currently the highest on the entire tour. She is winning 85% of her break points saved. She is not just surviving these moments, she is hunting them. This technical mastery leads us to the first layer of the revelation. Eala is the first female player in history to successfully weaponize the exact same physical principles that made Rafael Nadal the king of clay. She is using the heavy ball to create a tactical vacuum where her opponents simply run out of options. They try to hit through her, but the ball is too heavy. They try to outlast her, but her conditioning is elite. This is the weapon that the world is just starting to notice. However, the heavy ball is only the beginning of the mystery. The real reason why every major brand is fighting for her signature has nothing to do with her forehand. It has to do with the Nadal Blueprint. When the Nadal Academy took Eala under its wing, they were not just trying to build a tennis player, they were building a global icon. Nadal and his team realized something that the traditional tennis world missed. They saw that the future of the sport was not in local rivalries, but in the ability to bridge the gap between the East and the West. Eala is the perfect realization of that vision. She has the Spanish grit from her years in Mallorca. She has the American marketing appeal that resonates with the massive Filipino diaspora in cities like Los Angeles and New York. And she has the absolute devotion of over 100 million people in the Philippines. This is where the story stops being about tennis and starts being about a multi-billion-dollar shift in global influence. When Eala walks onto a court, she is not just an individual athlete. She is a representative of a market that has been largely untapped by the WTA for decades. She is a bridge between the traditional tennis power centers in Europe and the exploding wealth of the Asian-Pacific region. We have to ask a very serious question here. Do you think the WTA is ready for a player who holds this much leverage? For years, the tour has been dominated by stars who were famous, but did not necessarily bring an entire nation of consumers with them. Eala changes that equation entirely. I want to hear your thoughts on this in the comments. Is she becoming more than just a player? Do you think her brand is already bigger than her ranking? I read every single one of your insights because you guys always see the details that the mainstream sports networks ignore. The Nadal Blueprint was never about making her a female version of Rafa. It was about making her the first truly global superstar of the digital age. This is why the sponsors are so desperate. They are not just buying a patch on her shirt. They are buying access to a loyal fan ecosystem that crosses 3 continents. But if you still do not believe that she is the most wanted star of 2026, you need to hear about what happened in the locker room after her victory in the 4th round. While the fans were cheering in the stands, a very different kind of drama was unfolding behind closed doors. There was a confrontation that involved a top 10 player and a group of tournament officials that proves just how much the power balance has shifted toward Eala. This is the moment where the truth finally came out. And it is a truth that makes the unsold tickets and the security guards look like a minor detail. This is where the story gets really intense. To prove that this is not just a rumor, you only need to look at the hard data from Nielsen. In a typical match of the WTA, the audience numbers usually peak at the start and then slowly drop off as the match goes long. People lose interest. They check their phones. They switch the channel. But when Eala is on the screen, something strange happens. During her 3-hour marathon matches in 2026, the audience numbers do not drop. They actually increase. This is a rare phenomenon that we have not seen in the tennis of women for over a decade. The experts at ESPN have recently admitted that the rating power of Eala is the only thing they have seen that matches the peak of Serena Williams. It is a level of engagement that defies the traditional logic of the sport. But the biggest proof of her status as the most wanted star came during the preparations for the US Open in 2026. The tournament directors did something that shocked the entire locker room. They took the match of Eala and moved it to the prime time slot on the main court. They did this even though she was playing an opponent who was ranked much lower than the other stars in the draw. When the world number 1 complained about the court assignment, a senior official gave her a very blunt answer. He told her that more people in the United States were tuning in to watch a 11-year-old from the Philippines than were watching the rest of the top 5 combined. This is the reality of the business in 2026. It is not just about who has the most trophies, it is about who can move the needle. Eala is not just winning points, she is winning the attention of a global audience that the WTA has been trying to reach for 20 years. If you look at the ticket sales for her sessions, they sell out in minutes. In cities like Los Angeles and New York, the demand for tickets to see Eala is higher than for any other player on the tour. Even the sponsors are moving their budgets to follow her. We found out that a major watch brand recently ended a long-term deal with a top 5 European player specifically to free up the funds for Eala. They realized that the influence of Eala in the Asian market combined with her massive following in the United States made her a much better investment. The truth that Rafael Nadal saw on that clay court in Mallorca is now obvious to everyone. Eala is not just a tennis player. She is a new superpower. When she walks onto a stadium court, she does not just carry a racket in her hand. She carries the hopes and the cultural pride of 2 different continents. The shock of Nadal was not a sign of fear. It was the moment he recognized that a new era of the sport had finally arrived. The blueprint that the Academy created for her has worked perfectly. She has the physical power and the tactical grit of the Spanish school. But she also has the commercial reach of a global digital icon. We are looking at a trajectory that is heading straight for the top. Based on her current performance and her mental strength, we are predicting that Eala will crack the top 10 before the end of the 2026 season. She is the first truly multinational superstar of the digital age. She is the answer to the question of what the future of the WTA looks like. Nadal was right to be stunned. Because the truth is that the world has never seen a player quite like this before. She has the game to win the biggest titles and the personality to lead the entire sport into a new decade. What do you think about the Eala effect? Do you think she has what it takes to become the world number 1 before the end of 2026? If you want to see if our prediction comes true and you do not want to miss our next deep dive into the changing power of the WTA, you need to join our community. Click the button to stay tuned to the most detailed analysis of the tour. We are watching this revolution very closely, and we want you to be there with us for the next chapter of this incredible story.